Liberals spent $370,000 on food and catering and another $3,200 on booze on just 6 flights in 2019. Today I'll show you all the documents. Today's unbelievable story of government waste comes to us via an order paper question asked by Conservative MP Scott Davidson from the riding of York Simcoe. Davidson asked, with regard to the consumption of alcohol and food on flights taken on government-owned Airbus and Challenger aircraft since January 1st, 2019, on which flights was alcohol consumed? And for each flight where alcohol was consumed, what is the value of the alcohol consumed? What was the origin and destination of the flight? What was the flight date? What is the breakdown of alcoholic beverage consumed by specific beverage and quantity? What is the cost of food consumed on each flight? The response came back from Global Affairs Canada, and hoo boy, it is a Mardi Gras up in the clouds, as they say. Let's start with the booze for Trudeau and his high-flying entourage for the past year in the government Airbus. It starts on page 3. 17 bottles of wine and 10 cans of beer on a flight to Paris, totaling $267. 43 bottles of wine and 35 cans of beer on a flight to London, then Paris, then back to Ottawa, totaling $845.80. Ottawa to Washington, and then back to Ottawa. So a pretty short flight, actually. And yet Trudeau consumed 19 bottles of wine and 21 cans of beer, totaling $295. Then the Airbus went all the way to Osaka, Japan, and then back to Ottawa. Trudeau and the gang put away 57 bottles of wine and 35 cans of beer, totaling almost $844. On a flight from Ottawa to Biarritz, France, and then back to Ottawa, Trudeau and the booze cruisers downed 34 bottles of wine and 32 cans of beer for a grand total of $517. Then when they took the Airbus to London, they packed away 33 bottles of wine and 24 cans of beer, totaling almost $420. That's 203 bottles of wine and 157 cans of beer for just 6 trips, totaling nearly $3,200 in liquor alone. Let's pop over to the food bills, though, because if you think the booze was a little much, wait till you see these catering bills. They're going to blow your mind. And just to be clear, these are for the same flights. They're drinking and dining, sparing themselves no expense. The food costs for this trip here, where Trudeau flew from Ottawa to Paris to continue his burgeoning bromance with President Emmanuel Macron and back, were $51,375 and change. That Ottawa to London and then Paris and back to Ottawa trip the very next month, that was when Trudeau went to London to attend the 75th anniversary of D-Day and then off to France to visit Juno Beach and commemorate the Battle of Normandy. Now, this is going to blow your mind. For this trip, it was $95,856 in food costs on the Airbus. The Ottawa to Washington and back trip, Trudeau met with President Trump at the White House that day. That's a short flight, just a couple of hours. Well, Trudeau and the gang managed to ring up a $38,000 food bill on the plane. How do you eat $40,000 worth of food on a flight to Washington, which is 2 hours, maybe? The Ottawa to Osaka and then back to Ottawa trip, $95,605 in food expenses on the flight. The Ottawa to Biarritz, France, and then back to Ottawa, that was the G7 summit, and that bill for the Mile High hospitality came in at just over $50,000, $50,439 to be exact. And lastly, Ottawa to London and back in late December, that was the NATO summit, where Trump called Justin Trudeau two-faced and then embarrassed Trudeau internationally for his lower than mandatory defense spending. Remember this?
Well, he's two-faced.
Do you think that Germany's too naive?
And honestly, with Trudeau, he's a nice guy. I find him to be a very nice guy. But, you know, the truth is that I called him out on the fact that he's not paying 2%. And I guess he's not very happy about it. I mean, you were there, a couple of you were there, and he's not paying 2%, and he should be paying 2%. It's Canada, they have money, and they should be paying 2%. So I called him out on that, and I'm sure he wasn't happy about it, but that's the way it is. Look, I'm representing the U.S. and he should be paying more than he's paying, and he understands that. So I can imagine he's not that happy.
Well, it looks like Trudeau was drowning his embarrassment and troubles in food and booze, because the bill for food on that embarrassing junket was $35,600. Actually, the food cost for those 6 flights combined totaled $367,108. To put this into context for you at home, the average Canadian family of 4 will spend $12,157 next year on groceries. On just a 2-hour flight to Washington, Team Trudeau spends more than 3 Canadian families spend in the whole year on groceries. And his 6 flights totaled more than the annual grocery bills for 30 average Canadian families. Oh, but don't worry, friends, because Trudeau's got a minister of middle-class prosperity working on all of this. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. Hey friends, have you heard the good news? Rebel News is going on a cruise to Alaska, and we want you to come too. We set sail July 4th. We get back July 11th to see the absolutely gorgeous ship with all the amenities. And to get the full details and pricing, please go to rebelnewscruise.com.